A lot of things were hidden that only the journey could reveal. In this new timeline, you're going to be able to look back as you step across this threshold, as this new door opens for you. You're going to be able to look back and see why your journey had to be what it was, why you had to experience what you experienced. And when you see it, and when your spirit team reveals it to you, you're finally really going to be able to relax because you're going to recognize that it was all fate. Thank you for tuning in to Sacred Empowerments of the Divine Feminine. What's good, lovely ladies? I am so glad to be here with you today. I hope you are doing well, that this message finds you safe, finds you encouraged, okay? We're going to have a little conversation, okay? I've been sitting here as I do every morning, just kind of communing with the spirit team and communing with the mother and everything, and seeing what it is she wanted to speak to my heart that I could share with you in this message. And you know what she was saying to me? She said, relax. It was all fated. It was all fated. I was saying in the last Sacred Empowerment sessions, which if you did not tap into that, I do invite you to watch that message after you watch this one. I believe it's entitled You Deserve It. All right. I was saying in that last message that, one of the unique things that I am recognizing being in a new beginning and in a new timeline is that you don't lose the ability to like remember and duh, right? But sometimes when you haven't really experienced spiritual new beginnings and timeline shifts, right? Um you're not really adverse to what all comes with it, and you're just kind of as you were in the old timeline, as you were when you were healing, as you were when you were working on yourself. um you kind of learn as you go. Now, and new timelines are no different. New beginnings are no different. You have to learn how to really one by one and systematically shed old ideas, old ways of thinking, areas in which you had to protect yourself or be guarded or establish boundaries. Those boundaries are established and firm, so now you kind of learn how to be the new version of yourself. And one of the unique things that I have been observing is the ability to kind of look back over the old timeline, look back over through everything that I am coming out of and remembering what I experienced, right? And observing it, but not vibrating in it, right? Like I'm observing it somewhat in hindsight, I guess you would say, but not tapping into the frequency of the old timeline, but just beholding it. And one thing that I see is that um you have a lot of questions, you know, you have a lot of questions. You go through your life having a lot of questions, about things you experienced in your childhood that were less than pleasant, in ways that you were not, or feel like you weren't supported, or maybe you weren't supported, ways that you may have been abused, neglected. Um, and as you go along, you kind of question why things have to be this way. Why don't my relationships work out? Why do I always manage to, attract people who are not loyal, attract people who are jealous of me, attract people who are envious? Why do I always have to experience this? And even though I'm in a new beginning as you may be, you have the ability to kind of look back and remember when you didn't really have the answer. You didn't have the answer. It's from one relationship to the next, from one opportunity to the next, from one door closed to the next, from one failure to the next, from, you know what I mean? Like, and you're just kind of spinning around in a circle, going through life. And you know what? We so used to it, and we get so conditioned to these things that we just chop it up to that's the way life goes. This is the way life is. And there's some truth in that. There's some truth in that. But as it relates to your specific experience, it doesn't mean that you don't question, but why? I mean, if you're walking around being toxic, neglectful yourself, abusive yourself, I always say, well, you really can't question why. Now, can you? Because you are creating that energy. You're projecting it and it is reflecting itself back to you. And without trying to paint the picture that I've been perfect in every circumstance, what I can say 100% unequivocally, I can say that I have not been a toxic individual for toxicity's sake, right? And so when I would ask why am I getting this back, I really couldn't understand. I really couldn't understand it. Like, I do the best I can, to be a decent person, to believe in myself and the things that I want to accomplish. But there had been this circus of sorts, that I was in, and I was just like, what is this about? In this new beginning, you're going to start to really see what it was all about. There are times where you're going to have the privilege to uncover things about yourself that you didn't know was there. You're going to have the privilege, and you have been having the privilege to really sit down and look and see that even though you may have been a very good person, you may have done the best you could, and yet you were experiencing the things you were experiencing. You were being shown the things you were being shown. People were showing up to you the way they showed up to you. You're going to be able to see that as good as you were, you're actually better. What do I mean by that? As good as you were, you're actually better than that. And the better than that is why the journey had to be what it was. You being able to see that you are actually better than your best. Mm. Your perceived goodness was low vibration. And, we talk about low vibrational, you know what I'm saying, as far as like being negative and being toxic and but low vibrational just means you're vibrating lower than is actually available to you. So if you can look back at your past and say, well, I did right by this person and they did me dirty. I did right by that person and they didn't show up for me. I did right in this situation and they didn't, I showed up as a whole newborn baby and didn't do nothing to nobody and still got handed the short end of the stick as it relates to how I was raised and how I was treated and how I was loved or whether I was loved, right? If you can look back and see several occurrences where you showed up as what you thought was the highest vibration of yourself. You're about to step into a new beginning. You're stepping into a new beginning. You're in a new beginning. And if you sit down and behold the version of you that you are now, and compare it to the version of you that you were then. In all of your goodness then, you now see that my goodness was lower than what is actually afforded to me. I'm actually better than my good. And it don't have nothing to do with how I'm relating to other people. It has everything to do with how I'm relating to myself. So you've learned some things. You've healed some things. The journey is fated. The journey was fated. The journey had to be what it was because there was something more that the spirit, the Most High, your ancestors, your spirit team, about you, there was something more about you that they needed you to uncover, that they needed you to recover, that they needed you to begin to cover. See, because in our goodness and being good to people who do not deserve it, we leave ourselves uncovered. So you needed things about you. You needed gifts and abilities. You needed a certain aspect of your destiny and your purpose to be recovered, to be uncovered, and to be covered, right? The journey was fated. The experiences were fated. Not for 1 second have you been existing in this dimension without a plan, without a strategy. Not for 1 second have you just been tossed to and fro, blowing in the wind without direction, right? The beautiful part about spiritual growth and awakening is when you realize that the journey that you have been on was predetermined before you showed up. And who was it predetermined by? Not some God outside of yourself, not some being sitting somewhere behind some pearly gates. Who wrote the code to you? Who wrote the destiny and the path? Who wrote themselves in that particular relationship, in that particular family dynamic? Who placed themselves there? You did. You wrote it. And this, when you start to understand that, when you start to understand just how much personal power you have always had, it changes your whole perception moving forward. Now, does it stop from having your heart broken? Does it stop from the negative emotions that comes with it? No. And let me explain to you why. Knowing that you wrote your code and your path doesn't stop you from feeling hurt or disappointment or heartbreak when things don't go right, when people offend you, when people don't show up for you, because those dense emotions are needed, right? You can't be on a journey. You can't be on a journey and not feel, because if you don't feel, then the lesson to be learned on that journey cannot be learned. We are divine feminines. We learn through emotions. We learn through the things we feel. Now, the world, in their unhealed state, will fault you for that. They will tell you you're too emotional. They will tell you you do too much. They will tell you you're weak. They will speak negatively about everything that makes you firstly, feminine, secondly, a woman, thirdly, a divine feminine, right? They will tell you that all of that is the problem. No, baby, all of that is the solution that you wrote into your journey, into your path, because there's the physical you. The physical you is the medium. The medium. It is the ground upon which the spirit and the soul of you actually executes what is needed in the spirit and in the soul of you. The spirit and the soul of you can't impact their existence without you, without your physical existence. You understand? You're about to realize as you step into this new beginning and as miracles begin to manifest into your life, and as these doors are opening for you, and as divine, whole, healthy love presents itself to you, as new friendships that are whole and healthy and high vibrational present themselves to you, you're going to see exactly why you had to experience what you did. Only your soul and spirit knows what you needed to go through in order to continue to grow. Only your soul and spirit knows what it was going to take to get you to go deeper and dig up what has been hidden. See and feel. Remember how capable you are. Remember your divinity. Your soul and spirit knew what it was going to take for you to get the shovel and get the digging. But something ain't right. Something is not right. The world is not communicating to me the way I feel it should be. What am I not seeing? And when we come to this point where we begin to ask, what am I not seeing? That is the beginning of a beautiful end that brings another beautiful beginning. This new beginning that you are stepping into, this journey that you have been on, was about healthy choices for some of you. I know it was for me. It was about relearning how to make choices that actually support the weight of who I am. See, I'm waiting, right? And what I mean, I don't mean like you know what I'm saying? I don't mean obese. I'm weighty in spirit. And so the unhealthy choices that I was making before was was not allowing for the ground that I stand on to have the strength that it needed to hold the divinity of me. Like I was making unhealthy choices that was leaving faults and cracks in my foundation. I needed to learn how to make healthier choices, but I couldn't make healthier choices until I remembered my divinity, until I remembered my rank, until I remembered that I was the one who wrote the code. You have a code, but only you can access what is behind that door. You have a code that you wrote. See, there's an algorithm to you, if you will. that only you can access. Remembering that helps you see that everything you experienced that caused you heartache, that caused you sadness, depression, was faded. That individual that you loved that didn't love you back, that was faded. Make no mistake, there are no coincidences, like at all. Every experience that others have experienced, that you have not experienced, and you will not experience, is because that's not written in your story. It's not written in your story, right? You're only experiencing what is written in your story. I've gone through a lot of murky situations, trying to figure out what is going to be, what is not going to be. Why is this happening? Why did that not happen? It was fated for it to happen. It was fated for it not to happen. It's a hard pill to swallow. I remember I told someone one on one in a one on one conversation because they, were sharing with me the things that they had experienced in their life, and they had gone through quite a bit as a child growing up and things like that, things that I hadn't experienced. But I shared with them that what began to help me heal, because this person was still not really, they wanted to heal, but they didn't really know really how to. And I remember telling them that what helped me was remembering that I wrote the story, that I chose the journey. And it's a hard pill to swallow because you've been so used to blaming and sitting in the what they did to me and being comfortable in that re-victimization of yourself, reliving that moment, those times that hurt over and over and over. And you become comfortable with projecting outwardly. But doing that, and it may be true, this is what they did to you. They are to blame, right? That may be very well true. But what that does is robs you. It robs you of recovering, uncovering, and covering. It robs you of healing. It robs you of raising you. You can't, like, personal power and stepping into it requires for you to take all responsibility, not some of it. This is why some don't heal. This is why some heal, but only but so far, only for so long, because the foundation is still faulty. This is about healthy choices. Life is about learning how to make choices that support your divinity, that support your throne, your crown, that can hold up under the weight of who you are. It was all fated. It was all fated. And just like your past timeline was fated, this new timeline is fated. this rest, this relaxation, this high vibration, this new self-perception, these new boundaries, these new opportunities, the new you was fading. The story is not over. See, it's not over. And it's not drawn its conclusion in the old timeline. The old timeline, as a chapter of your life, is over. And in this new beginning, the mother is saying that you're going to have a lot of moments, right? Where you're going to have aha moments. Oh, I would have never been ready for this new divine love and partner that's coming towards me had I not experienced the karmic ones. I would have never been ready for this person. This person is so dope, so beautiful, so healthy, so whole, so giving, able to receive, right? Hey, they ain't crazy. They crazy in all of the ways that I like. You know what I'm saying? Like, not on some toxic, I like toxicity, but crazy, like, they goofy, they funny, they like to laugh. They got good energy. I would have never been ready had I not experienced the karmic relationship. It's the karmic relationships that prepped me and prepared for this level of love, this frequency of love, not control, not domination, not submission. So who? Not compromising myself in ways that don't feel good to me just to keep somebody, happy with me and feeling like I'm being the woman that I'm supposed to be to them. Not that. Not self-sacrificing and self-martyrism to hold up somebody's ego while they strip you of yours, strip you of your pride. I would have never been ready for this level of love had I not experienced all of those things I just listed in my karmic ones, in my past timeline. You're going to have specific moments where you're going to see exactly why you had to experience what you did when you did, because those things are things that needed to be healed, that have been traveling with you. Listen, the story, the story that you wrote, it goes with you from one lifetime to the next, depending on what you alchemize, what you heal from in a particular lifetime. For many of you, this was the lifetime. You are not only where you're supposed to be, but you're there when you're supposed to be there. Because I know a lot of times, you may can attest to this, that in life, you question, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I going the right path? I feel like I'm delayed. I feel like I'm behind. I should have already been wealthy. I should have already been married. I should have already had my own. I should have already this. I should have already that. I should have did. Why haven't I done this? I was supposed to do this. I should have went this. I should have did that. If I could only go back. What? Right? We got all of this shoulda, woulda, couldas. Like, could have did that better when I was 20. And then if I had did that when I was 20, I wouldn't be here at 40. You know what I mean? But you are exactly where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. It was this timeline for you to get those lessons, for you to uncover that gift, for you to recover that divinity, for you to cover that aspect of who you are, for you to learn how to guard your gates. You're right where you're supposed to be. This was why you came. This is why you're here. This is the work that needed to be done. And the beautiful part, and the part that needs to be and demands celebration, is that you did it. You did it, right? Because you wrote the story to go through what you went through. But there is a natural part of existing in this dimension that produces distraction. Distraction. There is a natural part of being in this existence that produces another layer of opposition that you didn't write in the story. It's just a natural part of existing in this dimension. And it can be distracting. It can be discouraging, right? It can be blinding. You can't really see what you need to see because all of this other unnecessary stuff is going on. Your choices. See, your story is predicated upon choices. Everything outside of what you chose that is also swirling around, you had nothing to do with that. That is a natural part of being in this dimension, and it plays a big part on whether you will see what you need to see when you need to see. So what again has to be demanded and has to be accomplished is you celebrating the fact that in the midst of this very tumultuous story that I wrote for me to experience, I have also overcome these unnecessary distractions that come with this existence. And I have still managed to uncover, to recover, and to learn how to cover my divinity, my gifts, my ability, my higher vibrational consciousness of who I am, right? And it was a touchy situation, you know. There was the good and the bad. There was the happy and the sad. You know, there was a lot of things that made it. I don't know what's gonna go on. I don't know. I don't know. It is looking kind of crazy right about that, right? But even in the midst of that, you did the work. See, I remember when my spirit team revealed to me when I was going through a season of heavy spiritual attack, heavy. And in the midst of me going through the heaviest season of spiritual attack I have ever experienced, they began to talk to me about me writing this in the story, this individual, that individual. And I said, what? I think I cried for like 2 days because my only question was, why would I do this? Why would I do this? Like, it was a moment. It was a moment. I felt like, girl, is you crazy? Is you good, bud? Is you like, why would you, why would you, why ain't you writing in the motherfucking story, you know? And then I went through another season. And I stopped kind of picking myself apart about writing this story for myself. That I think around about 8 or 9 years old, I started trying to find a way out of it. I was like, this shit is ghetto. I do not want to be in around 8 or 9 years old. I talked about that in some other episodes, maybe a season or two ago, right? Then I realized, because they started to talk to me, and they started to tell me that, no, you don't understand. The way you wrote your story was so brilliant. It was brilliant because the opposition at the spiritual level that floats in the air in this dimension, you had to write it a certain way in order to deceive your adversary. See, you had to write it in the beginning to make it look like you was defeated. You wrote it to make it look like you was just gonna give all your life and all your time to some fictitious Jesus, some fictitious God. You wrote it to make it look like they had got the best of you. You brilliantly wrote your story so that the victory that you were always going to step into was, again, was covered and cloaked, and your adversaries could not see that you were always going to get the victory. You wrote it in a way. I want you to listen to me. You wrote your story in a way that all like it's almost like you wrote your own self-deception in the story, right? You wrote the story in a way that you couldn't remember it. You couldn't remember, like, the victory was written from the beginning. But in order for you to accomplish the victory and outsmart your adversaries, you had to write the story in a way that caused you to forget the victory that you wrote in the beginning of the story. See, in this situation, the beginning, the end comes first. See, yeah, you read a book and you gotta, you go through your little first couple chapters, few chapters, about 12 chapters in, you got a lot of twists and turns. You got a lot of climaxes and stuff and all of that. You got the body of the story, and then you get to the conclusion at the end. See, but this is the brilliance. This is what they were telling me, and I share it with you. The brilliance in your divinity is that you wrote the end first. You wrote the victory. You wrote you being your own heroine. You wrote you being your own hero. You wrote that in first. And then proceeded to write the rest of the story. And brilliantly, you wrote it in a way that caused you to forget about the beginning. And in forgetting about the beginning, you deceived your adversary. Do you understand me? You recovering, you uncovering, you discovering your victory right now was all a part of the journey to outsmart those who work to stop you. And why do they want to stop you? Because you forgot exactly how divine you are. So let us remind you. Let us remind you what dimension you are here from. Let us remind you of the amount, the quantity, and quality of light you hold. Let us remind you. And as they remind you, you begin to remember. I'm a bad. This is why I ended up. At first, I was like, this has been horrible of an experience. This has been, I don't want to do this no more. Hey, I've been trying to find a way out of this motherfucker since I was 8. I don't like it here. I never did, right? Then I thought about it after they got done walking me through the whole scenario, and I was like, oh, 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 man, it's like I'm really that one. You are really that one, divine figure. You're not from here. I know most of you know that, but I just want to remind you, you're, you're not from here. You're journeying through here. What you are accomplishing, the victory you have won, doesn't have anything to do with here. It has to do with where you come from and where you're going to. See, it's all about elevation. It's all about moving up dimensionally. What you can't just do, you just can't walk up into another dimension. Like you have to go through the journey to elevate the spirit, to add another jewel to your crown, right? The victory that you've won, if you showed up in this dimension in the fullness of your strength, rank, and divine allowance, it'd be way too much. It would be too much for folks to handle. And then you're not here alone. There are others like you. And if we all showed up in the fullness of it would child, these people can barely handle you as a woman. They can't handle you in what you've accomplished is not for here. This has to do with the growth and the expansion of your spiritual existence as a spirit being, a being with limitless potential. This body is just a small capsule for you to journey through, right? When I began to realize after they began to tell me, I said, okay, it changed my way of looking. It reminded me of the truth of my essence. And all of that happened because it was fated. All of those things that had me so miserable before were fated. It was fated for me to run into this individual, fall in love with them in the most purest way, for them to give me their ass to kiss. That was fate. The tears, the crying, the abandonment, the feeling that came with every failure, every stumble, every unhealthy choice that blew up in my face late, the depression as a child, the wanting to leave, and all of was faded. Because you know what also was in the story? What was also in the story is that after I keep experiencing this shit enough, I'm going to eventually ask why. And there it is. The why. The why is the key that unlocks the door. And it's a lot of a lot of stuff to behold behind that door. But there's nobody there behind that door but you. But you. And you begin to get in this room. After you put that key in that why, that you put that key in that door, you open that door, you step into a room full of dusty old boxes full of shit that you ain't seen in 13 lifetimes. You forgot all about this. And shadow work and healing is digging through those boxes that's been sitting there from one lifetime to the next, to the next. And I mean, this room is packed full of shit. There's some shit up in here. I mean, spiritually, we're hoarders. This is what we do. We've been hoarding. This ain't one of them little rooms that's, packed. Everything's packed so nicely and neatly. And you can still walk and see the floor and the carpet and shit. No, you can't see nothing but boxes. And they all got dust on them. Shadow work, doing the work, means going through every one of these boxes. What is in here? Oh, I forgot all about that. And that is why you kept experiencing rejection. Because the rejection you were experiencing was trying to show you was in the box. But then you go through the boxes and you start looking at old, and I mean this metaphorically, right? Old pictures and old snapshots and old memories. And some of these people that you've been bumping into this lifetime, you got pictures, you got pictures, you got memories from 20 lifetimes ago. This is why they showed up to you this lifetime, because 20 lifetimes ago. This is not just a random person. This has not just been random people. Then you start going through the boxes and you begin to let go and release things. When they on that hoarding show, when they try to clean up the person's house and they just start throwing everything away. Everything. They got a whole big old one of them big old commercial dumpsters out there, Jack, and they just start throwing everything away. Nothing can be salvaged. And you sit for a minute in that room, going through old memories, old timelines, being reminded. And then you come to the point where you're ready to throw it away. Stepping into a new time. means that you have gone into one room and cleaned it up, and now you have the right. Because after you start moving those boxes around and getting all that dust out of there, you start seeing floor and carpet and walls and stuff again. Start feeling a little stable. You can breathe a bit. You couldn't breathe because it was too much dust. You in there with a hazmat mask on and everything, trying to clean up all of this clutter that's in your soul and clutter that's in your. When you start breathing and the sunlight can come in because the window ain't got all blocked up and stuff. Sunlight can come in a little bit, and you look, and there's a hidden door that you couldn't see because of the boxes, because of the chest and all of this, all these trunks and stuff full of old stuff. But now that you got that cleaned up and the sunlight can come in, and there's a hidden door over there to the left. It's a door that you didn't see. Stepping into a new timeline, stepping into a new beginning is opening that door, that hidden door that was blocked by all the clutter that only you can open. Just like it was only you that could open the first door, and you can't get to the second door unless you open the first door. But you know what? It's not a why that opens that hidden door. It's not a why. It's not why. That's not the key. The key to that door was in one of those boxes. And you set the key to the side because you was like, I don't know what this key go to. I don't know. Just hold it. I'm gonna throw everything. I'm gonna keep the key. I don't know. It could be something in maybe one of these boxes or something got a lock or something on it. I don't know. Just hold on to this key. You take that key and you open the second door, and behind that second door, your treasure. It's a room full of diamonds, jewelry, gold, wealth, love. Behind the second door is where you hid all of your precious jewels. Behind the second door is where you put up the best part of yourself for safekeeping. Behind the second door is every gift, ability, skill, talent, your brilliance. Behind the second, that you can't get to unless you get into the first one. And this is what it means. This new beginning. When you see the wealth, when you see the abundance, when you see how you have put so much in your storehouse, when you see the overflow in that second room, you'll look back and you're going to say, this is why. This is why I had to come in here and clean this shit up. This is why it was fated. You are here to recover your treasure. You are here to discover it again. And all of those karmic people, in all of those karmic situations, I don't care who they are, family, friends, lovers, whoever, husbands, wives, whatever, I don't care who they are. All of that, all of those people, They cannot go in there in that second room with you. See, they served their purpose. Their purpose was to apply the right amount of pressure on you for you to ask why. And the why gave you the key to the first. And cleaning up what was behind that gave you access to your treasure. It was fated for you to remember who you are this lifetime. It was fated for you to recover your divinity this lifetime. It was fated. And yes, the pressure has been hard. Yes, it has been challenging. Yes, there has been struggle. There has been hurt. But behind that second door is where your heart is. An individual's treasure, and I say individual, but the scripture says me. But a man's treasure is where his our hearts is what we're fighting. Our heart. It was fated. And this new beginning is proof that you have recovered all. If they didn't want you to get in that second door, the people, spirits, principalities, the powers in high places that control the distractions fail to realize that they don't control your choices. You wrote the story of your choices, and you wrote it brilliantly. You wrote it, and just when they thought they had you so distracted, and just when they thought they had you so broke down, and just when they thought you was definitely about to give up, just when you thought that they could harness your energy, feed off your light, and recycle you again, you ask why. You wanted to investigate. You became curious. You decided to look behind the veil. And you renewed. I wrote the story. I wrote this story. I have the power of choice. It is my will that shall be done. And you unplug, called back your energy and took your energy back. And you went on the journey to discover why. And you cleaned up what you saw. You got rid of what was no longer useful. You cut cords, right? You released and you let go. And lo and behold, there's a signal that I now can see. Well, what's behind that? And you opened it and boom, there it is. Everything that is rightfully yours is back in your hands now. It's in your hands now. So you can relax. It was fate. It was fate. Thank you for tapping into Sacred Empowerment of the Divine Feminine. To all of my returning subscribers, welcome to my new subscribers as well. Thank you so much for becoming a part of this beautiful community, our little corner of the internet, I like to call it. And thank you so much for watching this message and for your support. It means so much to me. To my new viewers, okay? Please take a moment, subscribe, join the tribe. We would love to have you here. Turn on your notification bell so you know when I'm back with another message. Hit that like button, y'all. Hit that like button for your girl. Show your support. We want to get the message out into the algorithm. And so other divine feminine women can come in and see and receive the empowerment that the mother gives us through these messages, right? Leave me a comment. Let me know how it resonates. I love you guys so much. Y'all mean everything to me. This channel means a lot to me. And so, yeah, I'm very excited about the growth and the expansion that we're going to experience together. And I love you guys. I want you to stay beautiful, okay? Stay safe. Stay well. Keep your boundaries up, right? Stay sexy. Do that. Definitely do that, okay? And I love you, and I'll see you on the next